Thank you for joining us here today on how to increase enterprise agility with BI modernization. My name is Lucas Thilosen, and I lead the professional services arm of Google Cloud focused on Looker. We get to work with a variety of different customers, of different sizes and industries, and I'm very excited to have with us today Danny Walsh, the Vice President of Reporting and Analytics at Firehouse Subs.
Hey, Lucas, thanks for having me today. I'm excited to talk about BI modernization with you.
Yeah, you guys have a super interesting story. I know COVID hit a lot of industries and all of us really, but the restaurant industry was hit particularly hard. And so it's really interesting to hear how you guys were engaged at the time. So how you guys really used analytics and the agility of our technology to turn things around incredibly quickly. Before we get into that though, I'll take just a couple of minutes here to talk about what we see in the industry. Why do companies modernize? Where do we see failures? What is our approach to it? And then we hand it over to Danny to talk about Firehouse Subs specifically, the challenges they faced and how they turned things around, where they're now and what is next for them. Having worked with so many different companies, I think I can really boil it down to these three reasons. And usually it's a combination of that. It's not just one of them. It's a little bit of that, a little bit of this, but primarily, maybe the agility, maybe analytics maturity, or perhaps cost. Cost is the most straightforward one, right? I mean, there are costs of the legacy tools, the license, the maintenance, or the infrastructure to run them. But then there are also other cost components that might not be quite as obvious. One that I have seen now many, many times, and it's really almost frightening, is people think they're making data-driven decisions, or they are making data-driven decisions, but the data they're using is actually incorrect. A lot of tools don't have a central governance layer that makes sure that the definition of revenue or new customers is always correct. Another component of cost is the efficiency. Right? If it takes you a long time to make decisions, that is costly. Imagine COVID were to hit right now, right? You've got to make decisions quickly. And you cannot file a ticket or ask an outside agency or whatnot in order to wait for the data to make those decisions. A lot of companies default to not making any data-driven decision and just go with their guts, which is not exactly ideal. And that leads me right to agility. Really, the time to value needs to be reduced dramatically. Right? From the moment you have a question, you want to have a data-driven answer as quickly as you can. And so you do need an agile platform, an agile analytics tool, and an agile BI stack. We want to reduce the friction of the business user interacting with the data. So the much more self-serve, right? The more we can get them to actually touch and change out measures or filters and move things around, the less any given other department becomes a bottleneck. And the more the business truly embraces data and analytics, and it really drives a data culture in the organization. And with that, also the analysts, the head of analytics, becomes a data product manager. I think that's a really important transition. You are still an analyst at heart, of course, but you're handling data in your organization as a product, something that always evolves, that always improves. You listen to your business users, you listen to the business you work in, or maybe your customers if you monetize the data, and you constantly improve it. It always changes, and that's a good thing because we evolve, our business evolves, our industries evolve. And the last pillar is analytics maturity. Every company, most companies, want to mature in analytics. They want to build a stronger data culture. They want to bring the data to the user to truly build a data literate organization. A lot of companies want to move from what is happening in my business to why it is happening. And then, of course, what will happen next? Machine learning or AI is used often there. And we want to help them with that transition. So let's take a brief look at where is it failing, right? Where do we see the failures? And of course, it could be people, it could be process, and we have the resources to help with that. But the big one and the one that you cannot just overcome there quickly and easily is the technology piece. If technology is the challenge, but you may have a solution that doesn't scale very well because it is not taking advantage of the fantastic new database technologies you have and that is available to you right now. So you might be working off extracts. A lot of some BI tools use extracts, which really limits the explorative nature of analytics because you can only drill as deep as the extract allows you to go. It's never going to be real time. It's going to be hard to change. There's very limited agility, which doesn't create that kind of product mindset in analysts. And then it really, a lot of tools limit you on where and how you can put these reports and metrics. And in the end, they also want you to be logged in. And that's really where my team comes in. All of Google, we really don't want you to be logged in. We want to help with that transition. But before we get to the process of how we would migrate and help with that, let's talk about Looker really briefly. So if you're not familiar with Looker, Looker is a BI platform. And the word platform is really important here. At its core, it's a semantic modeling layer that defines what things are. So what is revenue? What is a new customer? It defines it once, and that definition can be used anywhere. It can be used in our APIs, and of course, it can also be used in the native UI dashboards and reports. So on the left side here, the red pillar, modern BI and analytics, that's what you probably would think of as traditional analytics, right? Dashboards, reports, you can drill down, you can really follow the breadcrumb of data. And then we want you to be able to go further. So we allow you to, or the APIs are available there to embed Looker into various pieces of other technology. Or so some companies, for example, embed Looker into their portals, so their customers can use it, and now they monetize the data. And some put it into workflows. I think it's one of the most exciting functions of Looker is the data action. So when someone gets the insights, gets a dashboard, sees the metrics, I want them to be able to take an action right there. And so we place a data action there. You can shut down the marketing campaign. You can increase something. You can approve a loan, whatever the action might be. We want really complete this flow from insights to data actions. And of course, all that happens in the database. Looker is always real-time in database, which means we use the best of the database we have available to us. All kinds of data warehouses, really. When we think of moving people then from a legacy tool to Looker, a lot of companies think of lift and shift. But I do think that is not necessarily the right approach. We want to make use of the new technologies we have and the best that it can offer us. And that might mean that we don't need 16 dashboards anymore, or we don't need these set of emailed reports or whatever it might be. Now we have alerting available to us. We have iframes. We have all these different things that we can do with Looker. And so we are usually going towards the middle approach here on a rationalized, where we move some things over, we recreate some things. We work with the business to really get the most out of the technology. Now, when we look at some examples of where we recently have done a modernization, these three came to mind. The first is a Fortune 5 retailer, one of the largest companies in the world, a Fortune 10 wholesaler, and then a media company, a very large media company that went into the streaming business. So the retailer, we helped them. They had every possible BI tool, really. And so we helped them to centralize things in Looker and be able, with the central data modeling layer, save a ton of time and a ton of people resources on serving their various business needs. I got some specific numbers of how much money they're saving. It's tremendous. The logistics company, the wholesaler here, the Fortune 10 wholesaler, they are in the business of getting supplies to their various customers, to their various other businesses. And so they build a portal that is completely powered by Looker. And now they can very quickly, within a very short time frame, change what their customers need and want to see. And that's a true agile embedded portal. And they're, of course, monetizing on this as well. So something we see more and more now. And the last one is a company that used a worksheet style BI tool, which really limited what the central analytics team can do. And now that they switched to Looker, they're able with a small team to serve lots and lots of different customers within their business, so they can get their reports on their own. It's very much a self-service culture now, which is fantastic to hear. So all of these companies had a great ROI, almost unrealistic. It felt like we did an ROI study with them. It was just amazing numbers. So we asked an industry publication to do an average across many different Looker customers. And what they saw is that the average customer sees an ROI of 486% on the migration. Their reliance on technical teams greatly was reduced. So there was no longer that bottleneck on data engineering or other technical teams. It really was the analyst and the business users working hand in hand. So there wasn't that reliance anymore. Their revenue tends to increase tremendously. And of course, productivity and data-driven decision-making went up significantly. And then with that iterative approach to analytics, you also have a ton of innovation because people can now can really drill down and ask more questions and innovate a lot faster. Now, one example that I'm really excited we have here today is Firehouse Subs. So we all talk about how we're agile, but I think with COVID hitting the industry, the restaurant industry particularly hard, I think the Firehouse Subs story is just a great one to hear about. So Danny, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Lucas. I'm really excited to be able to share our journey. A little background on Firehouse, though, to start. We have over 1,200 locations in the US, Canada, Puerto Rico, and non-traditional locations such as airports and college campuses. We've granted $60 million to public safety organizations via our Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation. We're headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, and we were founded in October of 1994. For myself personally, I have kind of a unique story with Firehouse. I started over 25 years ago with the company. Started in the very first restaurant with the founders, and I spent 7 years on the operations side. Finished up my degree in finance, and then they offered me a job on the headquarters team, and really the rest is history to where I am now as a VP of Reporting and Analytics. So one of the key things, though, was we had plateaued with our previous BI tool, and we needed to be more agile. We wanted to have more self-service analytics internally, so we started looking for a new solution. And what we landed on was obviously Looker. And Looker came in at a really great time because of the fact that we launched it just several months before the pandemic hit. So launched in December of 2019, then the rest was history in March when a global pandemic was announced, and we had to be really agile. So our challenge as a whole, though, was as the restaurant industry, this was crippling. Never have been through anything like this before. It was uncharted territory. From a business operations standpoint, no one had faced anything like this before. All the uncertainty and the plummeting sales across the entire industry as case counts were increasing. There were more and more local restrictions and just public fear. So we needed to know really how we were going to navigate this, and we had to be very agile with our decision making on the subject, so we could understand our guests better and really where they were still, what channels of trade they were using to consume Firehouse. So that's where Looker came in, and we were able to use the platform to really analyze in depth and quickly make more decisions about where our guests are going. So what sales channels are they using? Where have they gravitated to? Because dining rooms were closed for the most part everywhere. So we needed to know who our new guest was and how they're consuming our product. So we did a lot of analysis looking at our destination sales channels and where we needed to have our biggest areas of focus. We also were looking at hourly sales performance by our restaurants so that we could give operators a good tool to be able to look at their productivity, and then just overall labor efficiency, and really if they had a case to where maybe their restaurant at the time should close earlier, or that they should have different hours of operation with everything going on with COVID. So we gave them the tools for that. And then finally, switching from looking at our metrics by market, we really switched to looking at things on a state level, because with all of the different local restrictions, it was very important for us to look at rolled up results, but for each state to see what was going on and where we saw like improvements or where we saw things declining, so we could make quick decisions. So those were just a few of the examples of how we're using Looker to navigate this uncertain time. And really, I'm happy to report for us that the results have been great. So we returned to positive year-over-year comp sales growth within 9 weeks after the pandemic was announced. So that was something we're very thankful for, that we were able to do that, because I know there's a lot of brands still out there struggling. So for Firehouse to have a turnaround that quick was really unheard of, and one of the exceptions to the rule. We minimized the concept to implementation time by 50%. So that was key. With everything going on with COVID, we needed to get results out, and we needed to get results to our executive team quickly. So we were able to slash things in half for the amount of time it took to develop basically new dashboards or new metrics we were wanting to look at. So for instance, we'd go from 4 weeks to 2 weeks from having something from concept to completely to implementation. And then with everything, one of the most important aspects of what we do in this platform is providing self-service analytics to really all of our key departments. So from the C-suite to field operations, marketing, supply chain, public relations, all those different departments have access to Looker to be able to analyze the results in their specific discipline and make better business decisions as a whole for their department. So where are we now? Looker is embedded in our proprietary intranet site that we have for franchisees, where they can review first and foremost their scorecard results. So within Looker, we have basically a report card that has been built based on 9 key metrics that gives a very high level overview of that restaurant level performance. And then from there, they can really drill in and dig into the data to look further after they go to that overview of their performance. So they can really dig into that data and the oversight or the insights that they can derive from those results. And then they're able to benchmark versus different hierarchy levels. So, different restaurants could benchmark their results versus our system-wide results versus the rest of a market, so they can see if they're exceeding or falling below, some of their peers. Our HQ staff uses Looker for daily, weekly, period end, and annual reporting across a multitude of different use cases. So, as I mentioned before, we have that restaurant report card, which is a key first stop to really look at how the health of a restaurant is doing, and then dig in further from there if need be. We have a pricing scenario calculator for our franchisees, and what that does is it gives them the ability to go in there and run a historical sales mix for whatever time period they so choose, and then take that sales mix, and they can go in there and input new pricing for specific products and take a strategic approach to see how much overall price they are taking across their menu and what the impact of that is on their sales and their food cost. So we've released that. And then we have something on the operational side as well called prep par sheets. So that's just taking into account, looking at a sales mix as well, and it gives the output of what the par levels need to be for different prep items, so the restaurants can get to those pars accordingly, and they know how much they need to prep of each item in each recipe. So those are just a few key things that where we're at right now. The expansion of our internal reporting and analytics team to continue this dashboard development and support has been key as well too, since we have brought that all in-house. And then, so what's next? We're expanding our use of forecasting to support our marketing and supply chain teams. So that's going to be through machine learning. And then we're setting up automated email alerts so we can notify end users of when a restaurant surpass or decline thresholds for certain KPIs. And then finally, as I spoke about before on the pricing side, we're going to continue with the pricing optimization, and we have a few more updates that we want to do to that pricing scenario calculator to really even take it to the next level. So we're going to be releasing a new version of that in the very near future. So that's just a little bit about our journey. I just want to thank you again, Lucas, for having me today. It's been a pleasure to go through this with you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. This is a really, really fascinating story, right? That we, as I said, we get to work with different government agencies and vaccine distribution companies, like all kinds of different companies. But this is a truly interesting one, right? The restaurant industry has never really had such a dramatic change, and you being there at the right time, thinking about an agile approach to begin with, and then us being able to work together, just great to see, and truly a true testament to agility in BI. Thank you.